Please record Kurt.
Hey, Prof. I think you can commence. Prof. Mbangizi.
You can start, Prof. Mbangizi.
Good afternoon, distinguished guests, colleagues, and friends. I welcome you to this book launch hosted by the College of Law and Management Studies of the University of KwaZulu-Natal. I extend a very special welcome to our esteemed editors and contributors who are today joining us from different corners of the globe. It is both a privilege and a pleasure to be joining you on behalf of our Dean, Professor Mutula, to celebrate this launch of this remarkable book, Stories of Hope, Reimagining Education. This volume is a testament to what is possible when a community of dedicated educators, researchers, and practitioners join us and come together with a shared purpose to challenge the status quo and imagine a more humane, a more inclusive, and a more inspiring future for education. Allow me to single out Professor Upasana Singh, one of the co-editors of this book and a valued member of our school. Those who know Professor Singh will recognize her energy, her enterprising spirit, and her ability to forge collaborations that not only advance scholarship, but also showcase the very best of our school, of our college, and of our university. Stories of Hope, the book we are launching today, is more than a book. It is a collection of lived experiences and practical innovations that speak directly to the challenges we face in education today across the globe. From rethinking systems and curriculum design, to embracing technology responsibly, to nurturing imaginative forms of collaboration. This work points us toward interventions that are already making a difference. It reminds us that hope is not abstract, that hope is enacted daily in our lecture rooms, in our communities, and research projects across the globe. In the context of deficits, in the context of crisis, in the context of gaps, this book dares to tell a different story, a story of possibility, of creativity, and resilience. And it offers both practitioners and researchers tangible strategies to make education not only more effective, but also more compassionate and responsive to human needs. I congratulate our esteemed and honored editors, the contributors, and all those who have made this publication possible, including the publishers. May stories of hope travel widely, inspire deeply, and continue to remind us all, as Nelson Mandela put it, that education is one of the most powerful weapons which you can use to change the world. I wish you well with this book and hope it goes far and travels deep. And I now hand over to Sandra Abeglin, who is joining us from Canada. Thank you very much. Over to you, Sandra.
Thank you very much for having us or hosting us, but also a big, big thank you to everybody out there for joining us from wherever you are. I can see in the chat people are joining us from all over the world. So please feel free to say hello and say a few words about who you are. We're excited to have you here. The book we're presenting today has been a long but very, very exciting journey. So we're a very diverse editor team that has contributed and helped put this together. But the collection would not have been possible with all the contributors we have in there. We have single authors, we have authors teams, and super exciting, we also have academics and students joining up together and presenting their work they're doing. So real world examples from their practice, what they do every day. And these are very small acts, but also big restructurations. So we have a range of showcases of what people do to create positive change in their institutions, in their classrooms, in their countries, but also, online. So we have a really, really exciting range of examples. And we hope these examples, these stories do inspire you. They have inspired us. And so we hope really that, as we've just been told, the stories do travel and they inspire you to try out, but also tell your own stories. Today, we're going to have some of the contributors presenting their work, but also we introduce ourselves so you get to know us a little bit more. And we should have the publisher on the panel too. So you get a broad range of insights of what is in the book, but also you can download it. It's free, it's open access, and that's deep and dear to our hearts, that the book can be accessed without any barriers. So the stories are there to be seen and heard and to be read and shared. So I'm going to pass on to Upasana Singh and she will introduce who we are.
Thank you, Sandra. Thank you everybody for being here. Firstly, my thanks goes to Prof. Mubangizi, who's the research chair in sustainable local rural livelihoods at UKZN. Thank you for your message on behalf of the Dean, Prof. Stephen Matula. In the interest of time, we don't have too much of time to go through the bios in detail of each one of us, but our bios are on the flyer. So firstly, you've already heard from Dr. Sandra Aberglen, who is a researcher and educator at the University of Calgary. Then we have next with us Prof. Dick Heller, who's an emeritus professor of medicine from Australia. Dick, do you want to say hi?
Thank you. Just welcome to everyone, and very excited to be here. And want to say a special thank you to Alessandra Tosi, who's the publisher who's here today. And the book is beautifully presented, and we're really grateful for such a wonderful help that we've had from the publisher. And as Sandra says, the fact that it's open access book is really very exciting. So, and what a pleasure it's been to work not only with the publisher, but with all the contributors. It's been a fantastic experience. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Dr. Rajan Madhav, who is a retired public health doctor with an interest in capacity building and particularly in promoting critical thinking and reflective practice. Dr. Madhav.
Thank you very much, Upasana. And to begin with, thank you to all the contributors. It has really been very educational and inspiring for me because from what I read about the education systems, they are in crisis. Everybody seems to be dissatisfied, and the stresses are acute. Despite all that, it seems to me that people are trying to make a difference. And I want to thank you and I want to applaud you. And I hope you'll continue with that. And maybe in time, we'll see the systematic change that we all aspire to. I also want to thank my colleagues on the editorial board because I'm not a mainstream educationalist. They took me on trust, and I've learned so much from them during the production of this book. So I want to thank them too. And I'm looking forward to the presentations.
Thank you very much. Our next editor is Professor Fabian Newhouse, from an associate professor at the University of Calgary.
That chip in there, he's not here today. So he's also based at the same university as me. He's really excited about the book. He's specializing in collaboration and co-creation in urban contexts.
Thank you, Sandra. Next, Professor John Sanders is a professor of medical education at Edhill University, UK. Prof, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ipsana. Well, it's been a fantastic experience to be part of the editorial group and to have seen and have the privilege to read all of the contributions. As everybody said before, I think it's an incredible feeling and collaborative effort where people have been able to have the opportunity, which we get very rarely in academic practice, to think widely, to think creatively, and to think about the future and reimagine how it can be different. And I think it's been a great privilege, and I hope that all of our intentions can be fully realised. Thank you.
Thank you. Last but not least, Ms. Sandra Sinfield is an associate teaching professor in education and learning development in the Centre for Teaching Enhancement at London Metropolitan University. Sandra?
Thank you. It's a beautiful moment to be here together with this wonderful team of editors and authors, and you hosting us here, Upasana, and your wonderful team. A sadness for me is that Tom Burns isn't here to see the end of the journey, but was there at the beginning, and this very much is the way he faced life, full of humour and joy and love. And I think this is what the book represents, an act of hope and love in a troubled world. And I'm happy to be here representing him and myself and looking forward to the book launch. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sandra. Thank you to all the editors for your words of welcome. We now move to our publisher, Dr. Alessandra Tosi. I'm not going to read out your full bio, but Dr. Tosi has been instrumental in helping this publication to fruition, and we sincerely thank you for all your efforts. Dr. Tosi, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you very much for inviting me to this book launch. It's an amazing event, and it's actually a lovely continuation to the book, which the book is open as it's a born open publication, so we always intended it to be open access, accessible to everybody around the world. And I hope it will raise a lot of awareness about educational practices, about how we can change some of the issues that we face in education, but also promote the debate across national borders. So this event is very international, and I hope that the discussion around this book and this topic will continue to be so. This is one of the great benefits of open access. And so I'm really enjoying this conversation.
Thank you. To all the colleagues who are attending here today, we'd like to make a special appeal to you. While the book is available open access so that it can be freely accessed by anybody and everybody, we do know that the publishers also rely on getting revenue from purchases of the book itself. So if you can encourage your colleagues at other institutions to purchase copies of the book for their libraries, and if you have access to your own research funds, which would cover the purchase of a book, we would encourage you to do so and try and help the publishers as well to sustain themselves in the open access publication space.
Yeah, I should have said that we are a social enterprise, so we are a non-for-profit. So I should have added that for people who don't know us as a publisher. But yes, thank you very much for noting that.
I hope I covered the marketing pitch for you, Dr. Tosi. Our first author today is Michelle Morgan. Michelle Morgan is from the UK, and she will be speaking about her chapter, which is titled The 10 Wellness Spheres to Support Student and Staff Health and Wellbeing in a Modern Post-1992 University in, through, and outside of the study life cycle. Michelle?
Thank you, Simon. I'm Michelle Morgan. And it's been an absolute privilege to be part of this book, and I'm very thankful to the team for, selecting my chapter. Me, like many others, I was a first-generation working-class mixed-race female. My mother's Indian, who wasn't expected to go on to do O-levels or GCSEs, let alone A-levels or further study. But education changed my life, and I know that everybody on this call and who has provided work for this amazing book is that we do what we do because we care. I didn't have a great experience, but loving that learning environment so much, I became a departmental administrator, faculty manager. I've been a lecturer, a module leader, an academic developer and researcher. And so I look at the student experience through multiple transitions. And I started to realise that so often only the very first couple of weeks is what was concentrated on. And so back in the early 2000s, I started pulling apart a model, trying to understand the transitions and who went through. And I was doing courses with students coming in to do top-ups, coming into level 5. And I realised that they weren't necessarily going through all the stages they needed to. If you could click Upsana, please. And what I started to realise as I had fleshed out the different stages, that students needed resources. Now, the Joseph Rowntree Trust define poverty is when the resources are not sufficient to meet minimum needs. But in a higher education context, what resources are needed? And Ed Foster from NTU, Nottingham Trent University, create this brilliant model talking about the resources needed for engagement. And this is about knowledge and understanding, skills, abilities, motivation, self-belief, personal capacity, and peer and college influence. And these are the same for staff or for students. And this is really important when we start looking at wellness, because if you don't have resources in these areas, then you have some poverty. Next slide, please. And so what I started doing really in the late 2019, 2020, when COVID happened, and through my work with the University Mental Health Charter, which I'm an assessor for, but I also fed into the review of the original charter, was that we need a whole range of types of wellness. And the wellness concept is not new. It's been around for a while. It's been used in education and business industry, and they range from about 5 to 10. And some of the common ones are here. But what I realised was when there is so much information available to students on our SharePoint pages, on our VLEs, how do we pull it all together so students and staff have easily accessible information? And so using my transitions model, I started to work out the kind of wellness areas that students needed and staff needed through the different transition stages. And of course, some students may not need certain wellnesses when they first join, but they may need certain wellnesses when they actually progress through their studies. And we all know major issues happen in students and staff lives. So it was about how can we give information to staff and students to reduce the poverty of engagement through wellness. Next slide, please. And so these are the 10 wellness spheres that I created. And basically, the plan was that there would be one site where staff would go for their specific support that they need as being a member of staff. But if you are a student or a member of staff supporting students, then you could click on each sphere. And then what would happen? Next slide, next click. Basically, there would be a 1-minute video from a student explaining why the wellness sphere is so important, and basically giving top tips and advice, and then all the links in one place relating to that sphere that staff and students can use, instead of students and staff having to kind of do a hunt through the different search bars on the VLEs or internal platforms that we use. And so, as I said, the plan was just basically, if we can assist students and staff to help themselves, but also by explaining how important the wellnesses are and how they can vary through the study journey, then we are better able to help our students and our staff in a really challenging educational environment succeed, to retain our staff. And if we can actually give them the resources, then and make them feel that they matter by giving them the right information, they can engage, and through that engagement, we have a better way of creating a sense of belonging. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle, for that very exciting but brief overview of the chapter. The idea here from all the authors is that they would whet our appetites so that we would be encouraged to go and read their 4 chapters. So we're going to ask for the audience, if anybody has any comments or questions, you may put it in the chat box and we will attend to those at the end of the session after all the presentations have been completed. Our next presenter for today is Mark Ingham, once again from the UK, University of the Arts, London. And his topic is Becoming Wildly Nomadic with the Nomadic Detective Agency Assemblage. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you very much. Just to reiterate and echo everybody else's thoughts, it's been one of the most pleasurable experiences of writing I've had for many years, and that goes down to everybody involved with it. So I just initially like to say thank you. What I'm just going to do is very briefly introduce perhaps myself. I'm an artist, I'm an educator and researcher. I'm a reader in critical and nomadic pedagogies at the University of Arts London. What I'm going to do today, just very briefly read a section from my chapter, which, as I said, is chapter 7. It's called Becoming Wildly Nomadic with a Nomadic Detective Agency Assemblage. I'm going to try and do this reading as well as I can. I'm not particularly great at it, but please bear with me. Okay, so this is Act 1. One of several. The first stirrings of the Nomadic Detective Agency Assemblage. They thought they would start their investigations with a cliched idea of the academy and work from there to see if they could find more experimental and radical concepts of what it could be. Their mandate was expansive, reaching beyond traditional creative domains such as art and design, to embrace all subjects that harbored potential for creative and critical thought. Scene 1, Becoming. 2, 1914, One of Several Wolves. Deleuze and Guattari, 2005, pages 26 to 28. They thought it seemed like a nice neighborhood to have bad habits in. That's Raymond Chandler from The Big Sleep, 1939, page 7. On first inspection, they found in certain quarters the narrow alleyways of academia bustled with pedagogical frenzy. The looming towers of ivory, glass, and mortar housed not just educators and students, but also ideas. Some venerable, others revolutionary, all fervently quarrelling for space and prominence. It was in this world teeming with creative vitality and intellectual strife that the Nomadic Detective Agency Assemblage, NDA-A, had been born. An organization, I'll turn the page of this rather beautiful book, to chart new paths of scholastic exploration. They knew at once they were not alone. They found that there were many like them, some in disguise, some in plain view, who wanted to challenge the status quo and to create new ways of thinking collaboratively about education and the pedagogies that help make it function imaginatively. As they wrote their first jumble notes, the first lines of the novel by Marlon James and Oyakhan Braithwaite rang out in their heads. The first line from Marlon James's book, "Listen, dead people never stop talking." And then there was one voice that haunted them most, Iola. She had summoned them with these words, "Corradi, I kill them." She told them that she had left the body without organs for them to find. They realized that the gravity of their task, but this only pulled them further towards concepts that they were excited to explore. It was a dark and stormy night when the investigators of the NDNA received the intriguing message. The academic volume, Stories of Hope, Reimagining Education, was seeking short papers that approached education from a human perspective to reimagine education. As a post-human organization, this piqued their curiosity. They had long observed the shortcomings of parts of traditional education systems. The invitation sought practical solutions, insights, and examples from a range of perspectives, including complexity theory and, for them, hopefully nomadic thinking. They sensed an opportunity to bring joy and justice to the educational landscape. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mark, for sharing your chapter and for reading out that portion of it so well. Can I ask you just to share your physical copy of the book, just so that our attendees here can see what the book looks like? Thank you so much. Very exciting.
It's fabulous.
It's a fabulous read. I agree with that. Thank you. Once again, we remind our attendees, if anybody has any questions or comments, you may put these on the chat until we've finished with the presentations from all our authors. Our next author for today is Michelle. Michelle is from the University of Wollongong in Australia, and she is going to present their chapter on creating hope through T-shaped values, examples of system change. Thank you, Michelle. Oh, sorry. Are you still as an attendee? I'm sorry about that.
Hi, good evening. Welcome to my living room from Australia. I'm Michelle. I was panicking because I couldn't get on as a panelist, and I was sending messages to Dick and sending messages to Afsana. So thank you for promoting me to the panel, Afsana. I really appreciate it. No, it's okay. It's just because I don't want to miss out on talking to you all. It's been such an exciting opportunity. And I'll tell you just a little bit about this team. So this team of people came together through an international collaborative writing group through the International Society of the Scholarship of Teaching and Learning. We've been working together since 2019, and we're from a variety of places. We've got someone from England, American, Australian, Canadian, and again, a Canadian, and then myself, an Australian with a Canadian accent. We have been working a lot around what we're calling the T-shaped student. In business, you'll know that there's a T-shaped business person that they spoke about. We've been talking about the T-shaped student. Possibly the best picture that I love from all of our work is the one in the top left corner. And what we're saying is that at universities, it's very important that we have a depth of learning of our discipline and why we are there to learn and our subject content. And that is the vertical part of the T. But the horizontal part of the T, with the student's hands out like this, are all of those other skills, cross-domain skills in literature, what people are calling in the literature hard skills, or they call them soft skills, sorry, but I call them the very hard skills, because I think that they're not soft, they're difficult things to learn, and how to communicate with one another, how to work in partnerships, how to have a conversation even for some students is really difficult. And so we're really interested in helping to prepare students, not just for graduating into the world of work, but to be world ready and know how to be active and proactive and productive members of society. So in this in this work that we've been doing, we've found key themes about how to be a T-shaped community and a T-shaped academic. And those themes are listed on the slide. Knowing the context of your class, valuing the difference and diverse experience in the class, having an ethic of care, which you can tell in this group tonight already that we all feel that we're empathetic folk, that there's student collaboration in everything that we do, and that we share these things through research and through, in particular for us, through a SOTL lens, through a Scholarship of Teaching and Learning lens. So our chapter, each of the authors has taken one of these key themes from the work that we have done and reflected on how that theme is portrayed in the way that we teach, encouraging others to think holistically about our student development, how to promote a T-shaped community where we're not just about discipline, which I'm not saying that that's not important, but we're also about these very hard skills or core skills that people are talking about now. So yeah, it's lovely to find a group of people that is global, that feels the same way that we do about the way that we teach our students, and how we, the reflection of what we do matters so much. So I've had a student who has crocheted something for me, a needlepoint. It sits on my desk, and it says, plant trees in whose shade you'll never sit. And I feel like that about this book. Yeah, it's like we're all planting these seeds, and we may never see the trees come, to fruition in our lifetime. But we know that when we're treating people with a sense of hope and joy and love, that we're going to the ramifications of that will last for a very long time. So I'm sorry that my words were a little mixed up. I was just a little bit nervous about getting onto the panel, but thank you so much for the opportunity to present, and we really look forward to reading the rest of the book. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that presentation. As hard as it is to present in a short space of time, all our authors are doing really well by giving us the essence of their chapter. As we have just heard, let us reimagine, collaborate, and transform so that education can become more exciting for all of us in this journey. Our next presenter today is Catherine Bates. Catherine Bates is from the University of Leeds, and she will be sharing her chapter with us on co-creating networks of hope in an interdisciplinary degree for mature students. Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you. It's brilliant to be here and a real privilege to be part of this book and with this amazing set of people. So I wrote this chapter with 3 of my students on the professional studies degree who have now all graduated, and on the left-hand side of the slide you can see a bit more about them, and I'll return to that if I have the time. The degree that I run at the Lifelong Learning Centre at the University of Leeds is called Professional Studies. It's an interdisciplinary degree designed to be specifically accessible to mature students, so people returning to learn after a gap. And we have an alternative entry scheme, which means that we can assess their readiness to learn in other ways to do with their lived experience and work experience, rather than relying on traditional qualifications. And in this way, one of the first ways I would say that we're sort of generating hope is through valuing and embedding students' lived experience and voice. And then in the way that we teach, so we teach a mix of contemporary topics which help students understand and build on their place in the world and contribute to social change. And we teach in a way that's based in discussion, empowering everyone to understand their place in the world, so that they can kind of influence each other. And we recognise students' expertise and the way that they can learn from each other, and we give them an opportunities to do that, build on that kind of collective knowledge, and use critical theory and contemporary case studies to really help people think about and build on their own experiences. Lucy, who we can see at the top, used the learning about gender oppression and intersectional feminism on the diversity module in the first year to radically change family life. You can read her words in the chapter. She said, I'm going to set everybody down. Things have to change. Tracy, who you can see on the bottom right of the left-hand slide, used the same module to apply understanding of structural racism and microaggressions to directly challenge what she then recognised as structural racism within the refereeing of her young son's football team. And she actually got the policy changed in how referees are kind of trained and disciplined. And Colin on the left-hand side talked to me about how he went from a large goods vehicle driver to eventually, after the degree with us, doing a PhD in modern day slavery, which he's just about to complete. In that capacity, he's advised the UN. But the other thing I wanted to say, so they're all amazing, and I wish they could be here with me. The other thing we talked about together was the way that they're learning, they influenced each other. So they each individually returned to learn, and we recognise that as a radical act of hope. But then through the discussions with each other and the opportunities we provide on the degree for students to meet people from different year groups, to meet graduates, to learn about each other's research and experiences, we're kind of creating what we ended up calling that network hope, that kind of relational pedagogical process really is the thing that keeps us all going. And that's what I ended up thinking when I was writing the chapter with the students. This is what keeps me going. You've caught me at the complete down point of my academic year because I haven't had that fueling of hope from students for a while. It's the teaching that makes me think that we can all create change together. So it's really important that we all create within our teaching those safe spaces for story sharing. And I really think that critical theory, whilst it can be really hard, can enable that different way of thinking and that transformative learning community. So to find out more, read the chapter. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Catherine. It was very encouraging to listen to your experiences with mature students, which sometimes can be a challenge, especially when the students are older than you and you're trying to get them to listen to what you're saying. So it's about winning them into that space. And as you said, co-creation is probably the key to this. We now shift focus to our last presenter for today. That's Vicky. Vicky, welcome from the UK. Vicky is from Queen Margaret University, and Vicky will be sharing the chapter titled Belonging Through Compassion, Supporting Hope Through the Design of a Website for Educational Development and Social Justice. Thank you, Vicky.
Thanks so much, Rosanna, and to everyone. And I totally reiterate just how amazing this experience has been, and so much support from the editors. And it's been an absolute joy being part of it and writing this chapter. I'm going to just pop a link in the chat as well. So if anyone can and wants to have a look at this website while I'm talking away, you're welcome to. My name is Vicky Hill. I am the Director of Learning Enhancement and Academic Development at Queen Margaret University in Scotland. But prior to that, I was working at University of the Arts London with my colleague Liz, who can't be here today. But we started working together in 2019, and we were working as academic developers on work to enhance belonging through compassionate pedagogies. So in 2021, we got a seed fund to bring together the work that we've been doing with course teams across the university to really sort of pull together all these amazing learnings. Our work had really been focused on reducing the ethnicity awarding gap and developing a sense of social justice and anti-racism within practice. And as we had worked with course teams across all, I think we worked with 17 course teams and kind of co-created approaches that they were wanting to take in response to student comments and kind of the other metrics around attainment and continuation, they had all these fantastic ideas. So we felt that it was really important to bring them together, to create a site that was open access and that could be shared for staff, to also help us start to move these conversations into kind of leadership management policy realm as well. Really recognizing that a lot of this work, particularly around compassionate pedagogy, tends to fall on the academics, on the teachers, and it can be a burden on them to change and to fix things. So we were really hoping that this would be a way of supporting staff, but at all aspects of the university, and moving it into thinking about leadership too. If you're having a look at the website, you're brilliant. You can have a look across it and sort of see that there's different aspects to it around assessment, around teaching, around self-compassion. The core and the crux of this, there's a lot of literature around belonging and higher education, but for us, it was thinking about how compassion is that sort of noticing of distress, anxiety, harm, and what we can do in our practices, our policies, and our pedagogies to reduce it. So that kind of compassion as a kind of compass, as a motivation, was for us not just the work we were doing, but also how we wanted to design the website. So we did a lot of talking to lots of people who know a lot more than we do about this kind of work. And we spoke to educational developers, learning technologists, digital designers, and to how can we create something that is joyful for people to look at. I think we've all probably looked at websites, institutional websites that are kind of death by text, and we wanted to create a space that actually felt welcoming, that when staff were looking at it, looking at resources, they would actually enjoy this experience, and it could be nourishing for them. Potentially for us, coming from an arts background, I recognize that probably influenced our thinking around this as well. But we really enjoyed being able to bring in all the different expertise from colleagues to do this. So we're hoping that this website has a sense of being dialogic, that has a sense of polyvocality, that there's different people and different voices in there, that we use different modes and different types of media, and that we focused on recognizing the different roles that people have within the university. And actually we had lots of students also looking on the website and enjoying it and being able to take aspects of it to inform their work as well, which has been great. So having this as a kind of compassionately designed site, we hoped would support academics, developers, and leadership in how we can model compassionate approaches, and becoming more affirmative in our work as well. I think this work, which you can see on the website, it underpins a lot of kind of continuing work that we've done around compassionate assessment, and there's links to various other projects in there. And I just want to take a minute really just to recognise the amount of people who have supported this work and informed this work, and sort of championed what we've done. And it's really lovely to be able to know that this has supported changes to policy at universities, and it's changed practice, and it's made people feel a wee bit more comfortable in taking risks, and talking about things like compassion in senior management meetings, which is or changing policy and talking about love and hope and joy. And I think everything else in this book is also sort of reiterating that. So I will stop talking because I've probably gone over my time. Thanks.
Thank you, Vicky. Compassion being the key word. So thank you for that presentation. I think that brings us to the end of the authors' presentations for today. And we're spot on time. Unfortunately, the other two authors who were meant to join us are not available. So we encourage you once again to download a free copy of the book. You may do so from the website, or if you have your phone on you, you can scan the QR code right now, which will take you directly to the website. And please, once again, we make an earnest appeal to you to encourage your university libraries, and for those of you who may have research funds as well, to purchase a hard copy of the book as you've seen it. It's a beautiful book, and it makes something for keeps. So Sandra, shall I hand over to you for a little while? Would you like to handle some of the questions that have been put on the chat? There's quite a bit of discussion I've seen. Thanks.
Yeah, it's wonderful to see comments and discussions, but also sharing of resources. And I think that's what the book is about too. So there's a lot of resources in there. There is also clear recommendations on how you can transfer some of the things the authors talk about into your own practice. questions that come up in the chat were, how can we break down, boundaries? How can we come together? So academics, students, management, but also with communities and other institutions. So there seems to be a lot of competition and competitiveness. So how do we install hope by breaking down boundaries? How can we do that, taking down those barriers? And then I just add this little extra on, how can we keep going? So what keeps the our authors going? So what, keeps up the hope, the critical hope needed? And I just let the authors, open their mic or also respond in the chat to those key questions. So how do we take down barriers between each other, with students, with other people working within universities, but also with communities and other institutions? And how do you keep going? How do you keep up the hope? Just open your mic or put it in the chat.
Okay, so for me, at the very heart of all the work that I've done is understanding what higher education is about, and it's about the learning imperative. And if you can make the learning imperative central and then weave in everything, then you've got students who are better placed to be able to tap into what they need, because belonging and engagement is different for every single student, as a mature student, as a commuter student, as a student who lives on campus. And yet higher education tries to put students and push them through the eye of a needle. It's not the way higher education works. That model is broken. We don't have students today of even the same 5 years ago, 10 years ago. We are dealing with a very different student body, with a higher educational structure that is basically out of date and not capable of dealing with the needs of our students. And so I think that is really, really important. But it's also about if we can actually put the course as central, and then everything else is weaved through the course. And if you can actually bring in students who are made to feel that they matter through the course, and the university puts in support that way, students are more likely to engage. Unfortunately, we very often have a top-down rather than a bottom-up model in higher education that enables students with very, very different support requirements, engagement requirements, different in age requirements, to be able to effectively tap in to those resources. And so often our students are resource poor.
Thanks, Michelle. Before I give the word forward, so it's putting student back at the center, but also putting learning back at the center. And I just refer to Mark, who put a survival kit list in the chat. So what does the student need, but also maybe what can we give the student to navigate challenging terrain? And I'm gonna let who opened the mic. I know Catherine had it open at
I was
some
just
point.
gonna follow Michelle, and we could do a double Michelle. I find that I've been doing this for 20 years now in higher education. I teach teachers how to teach, and I find it a daunting job because I need to sign the line that they're ready. And what I found about students most recently is that students are coming into the classroom thinking that everything is about them. And it's my job so that when they step out of the classroom and graduate and into the world, they realize that actually nothing is about them. And I think it's really an interesting place to be as an educator. And one of the ways to do this is to listen. I think we need to listen more to what their students are wanting from us, what they're hoping themselves for us to be able to provide them, and stop thinking that we already know what they need. I think that there's something to be said for that. So really listening to our students and letting them have a voice in their education is truly important. I'd have to completely agree with Michelle.
Thank you, Michelle. So another vote for, listening, putting students first, and, putting that compassion there, getting it to know them. I can see in the chat, making friends and allies. And I think that probably is not just with students, but also with your colleagues, rather than trying to be competitive with them or just be competitive with them. So, find your allies yourself too. Do you want to say something, Catherine?
Yes, please. And it's so interesting because I would say listen as well in terms of breaking down the boundaries. But I often find with so most of my students are first in the family. There's been big things that have happened which meant they weren't able to study, like go on to university at the traditional age. And often the last thing they're thinking is that anything's to do with them. And what I'm doing is saying your voice is valuable, your experience is valuable. It's not, and I think it's valuing those different experiences rather than saying you've got this academic knowledge, which is the most important thing, and everybody has to fit into this box. And I'm not in any way saying that's what Michelle was saying. I'm just recognizing different students coming from different contexts. So for me, in terms of those breaking down the boundaries, you need to get the students in the room with the managers, with the administrators. You need to have everyone listening and learning together. So I feel like in what I've read of the book and what I've heard today, the educators, like the sets of people that are thinking about this stuff, that are really listening to students, and then we're all constrained by administrative and governmental systems that aren't listening to the students and are assuming what students are like, what they want, what universities are for. And it's that boundary I would really like. It's those people I would like to read the book. But also this isn't me having a go at administrators, because obviously in the UK, a lot of jobs are getting cut. A lot of jobs in professional services are getting cut. So if you don't have enough people, you don't have the people that can really take the time to build that understanding. There was another question I want to answer really quickly, and it was something around hope and how do you keep it going, and is there just that hope there kind of willy-nilly? Could there be too much of it? And I just think for me, it's so important. What I've learned from my students is if you just focus on what's going wrong with the world, everybody feels bad and you end up in a despairing place, and you don't help very vulnerable people who are here because they want to create change. So it's our responsibility to recognize the importance of hope for keeping us going. So we need to create those allies, but we need to look out for what can give us hope. And as I said, in my experience, that's the students themselves. So it's not hope as a passive thing, it's hope as a piece of activism that we do with other people.
Yeah. Thank you, Catherine. You describe it in the chat as relational approaches, so focus on the relationships. I'm gonna pass over to Dick from the editorial team to kind of give us a little glimpse of what we saw as the editorial team before passing back to Upasana and wrap this up. So, Dick, if you could say a few words of what, working with all these authors, also those that haven't been able to make it today, what did we find and what did we see and where did we, locate hope?
Well, I think that for me, hope has come from seeing all these wonderful authors and describing their work and their passion and their commitment and their compassion. And, we're facing, as we know, all these terrible problems in the higher education sector. I think they're global problems. And but there is hope because the people working in education have this passion, and they want to do good things, and they are doing good things, and they're innovating in the face of adversity, and that gives me hope. And I think that is the expression of hope, which I think was identified in the foreword to the book. I think I want to say one other thing, which I can't keep up with what's going on in the chat because there's a lot happening, but there's obviously a lot of interest, and what we're hoping is that this may not be the end of the story, and that somehow we can find a way of continuing this conversation and maybe working together into the future in thinking about change and about the future. As someone said, how do we, in the chat, how do we achieve system change when we're so busy at the coalface? So there are a lot of things to think about for the future, and I just totally inspired by hearing today and reading all the chapters and going through all the changes and the editorial changes that we had to make. But totally inspired, and I just had to say I hope this isn't the end of the story, and that we can keep on in some way in working together and thinking through important things in higher education. And thank you all for your contributions.
Thank you, Dick. And I pass back to Upasana for final words.
Thank you, Sandra. Thank you, Dick. So to all the authors who had the opportunity to participate today and present your chapters, thank you for making time to be here. Thank you for making time to create those inspiring slides to encourage all of us to read your chapters. It's been wonderful working with all of you. And for those who couldn't attend, we hope that in the future we would be able to give you a platform at some other future webinars. Sandra, thank you for co-hosting this with me, and to Dick, thank you for your contributions. To all the co-editors, my sincere thanks to all of you for giving me an opportunity to join this team. It was my first experience of working with a creative piece rather than a research-based edited book, and it was a very joyful learning journey for me. I do want to say to all my colleagues who are attending from South Africa, we place a lot of emphasis on research-based writing because we get PUs for it, and it's recognized by the Department of Higher Education. And we often neglect this side of sharing our experiences through creative writing pieces. And I would like to encourage us all, including myself. I did not make any submission to this book because of that very reason. And I think that our higher education system needs to recognize the sharing that we can have through publishing books like this, rather than everything being research-based publications. So hopefully, if we have future opportunities, we would get more submissions from South African and the Global South. Thank you to Prof. Betty Mubangizi for her participation and for introducing us. I would also like to thank our Dean, Prof. Stephen Mutula, for giving us this opportunity, for allowing UKZN to host the launch of this book virtually. Hazel, if you're here, please can you switch your camera on? Hazel's been the PR manager behind the scenes, making sure that this event happened the way it did. I did say to the rest of the editors that everything will fall into place. Just give us time. It doesn't always happen in Western time. It happens in African time, but it does fall together in place. And to all our wonderful attendees, we've had over 120 attendees since the start of the webinar. It's been wonderful having you all with us. If I have forgotten anybody, please forgive me. Oh, the publisher, once again, thank you to you. And if I've forgotten anybody in the process, please forgive me. We hope to see you in future webinars. We hope to be able to connect with you. We do have some ideas of how to carry this forward. So we hope to connect with you through email. If we don't connect with you through another publication, maybe through some research. Can I kindly request that before we all leave, if all the authors who presented and the editors, Hazel, Prof. Mubangizi, if you all here can just switch your video on for 1 minute so we can get a nice group photo for publication purposes. Thank you. So Hazel, you can count 1, 2, 3 and click. from my side, that's it. Thank you, everybody. Bye. It was lovely meeting everyone and a lovely sharing session.
Yes. Thank you very much, everyone.